We welcome back to the show one of the most plugged-in men of the business, Pierre LeBrun. Hello, Pierre. How are you?
Oh, Bob, don't make me cry now. I'm on live radio. Come on now.
Well, did you hear what I opened up with today? Because I sent it to you.
Yes, I did. It's a great tune.
It is a great tune. It's just a little, 1986 sappy with Peter Gabriel and Kate Bush. Here's the thing. Let's cut to the chase here. Number one, Florida, at the end of the day, they were just better. Is that fair?
Yes, and they were a level better that surprised me. Not that they won the cup. I mean, I thought it was a flip of a coin series going into it, but to be that much better against a team that absolutely tilted things against Dallas and Vegas really surprised me. And you just tip your cap. I mean, to be up in the Cup final for more than 255 minutes,
yeah,
you can't chase every night. And by the time we got to last night, I really think, I know this is a bit corny, and this is a big picture corny when I say a comment like this, but Edmonton's spirit was easily broken early last night. They just didn't have that fight in them, in my opinion.
I went and saw a couple of friends after the game Saturday night, and one of them texted me the next day, and I just said, he's like, geez, you seem a little down. And I'm like, well, sometimes you get a read on a team, sometimes you get a read on the series, and I would have said, here's the thing. During the Carolina series, Sam Reinhart got nicked up, but then Zach Hyman got hurt in Game 4. If Reinhart's out for Florida and Hyman's in for Edmonton, given that Zach Hyman has the most goals of any active player in a playoff series or a playoff run in one single playoffs, he's got the most at 16. Crosby, Ovechkin, now Sam Bennett at 15. But, Hyman has 16 and was leading the league in hits. He was tailor-made for Florida. So if Hyman had played that series and, say, one of Reinhart or Tkachuk was out, I would have said at that point maybe it would be even. But the loss of Hyman compounded with they were complete. And I know they had a couple guys play through injuries, and we're going to find out in the next couple days of the Oilers, specifically Nugent Hopkins playing through a significant injury. But at the end of the day, Hyman, that's probably Edmonton's third or fourth best forward. And given how top-heavy, the Oilers are more top-heavy than that top 9 for Florida, they basically got 3 first lines, Pierre. It was a big loss. Not an excuse, but it did tilt the matchup a bit.
I think it was massive, and I'm not saying Zach Hyman's healthy the Oilers win, but it's still a massive piece of the story here because when you look at Connor McDavid's best fits as his line mates, it's Hyman and RNH. And one's gone and one's at whatever level he's at because of the injury. And I think it made Chris Knobloch want to load up with the nuclear option too often in this series. And then, basically 2 shifts in last night. And to me, and listen, I get why he's doing it. I mean, a lot of the raw numbers show, especially early in the series, that it was good to do it. But over time, there's a reason why he said it. He said it openly again when I asked him early in the series. He'd rather not load up over the longer term for obvious reasons. He wants to spread it out. And so, losing Hyman and then not having RNH at full strength really hurt the top line, and then it just made everything else a real juggle. But again, this is an Oilers show, and we're looking at what went wrong, but.
How about what went right for Florida? They were just not good.
I don't think there's a team in the league beating Florida in that Cup final. They are just. I mean, that on Anton Lundell third line is ridiculous. That is not a third line.
Yeah.
They destroyed Toronto. That ended up being the difference in them coming back to beat the Leafs is that line with Marchand and Lucic.
By the way, the Leafs had all their core 4 guys going in that series. Hyman's got 35 goals, 60 points in 68 games, plus 27 as an Oiler. He's been more productive than any one of those 4 guys. And I will say, Toronto, unfortunately, has played in the toughest division, but Hyman has produced when he's been in. I was, last year, Skinner had a better save percentage than Bobrovsky. Bobrovsky is the best clutch goalie in the league right now, at least over the last 3 years. He finishes the series at .919. He was over .940 at 5-on-5. That was a factor, too, because the Oilers didn't get, and what's funny is they don't get to the Stanley Cup if not for how well Skinner played against the Dallas Stars. Skinner was really good against Dallas, right?
Yeah, that stretch of shutouts and dominant play from Skinner really helped, neutralize the advantage that Dallas had in theory in Jake Ottinger, and that was the difference in that series. But, you can't underestimate the fact that Florida only had to go the distance once in their run, and I think that allowed Sergei Bobrovsky the proper amount of rest heading into the Cup final, which at his age is big, and he had lots of double off days in the Cup final, which is big for him. I know from talking to the Panthers, so all that played in favor of him. But at the end of the day, and again, I'm going to be critical here because this ended up pretty tilted for Florida. Sergei Bobrovsky saw too many shots. The Oilers did not take his eyes away nearly enough.
Right.
Not enough traffic. I'm not taking anything away from how well Bob played in the Cup final, but, his life was too easy, given how talented the Oilers are up front. And again, that's Florida boxing out and playing their style and making it hard for the Oilers to get to the net. But I think that was an underplayed part of the series, too, that the Oilers just did not spend enough time around the blue paint.
Epstein's mother has texted us on the Ashley Fine Floors text line. Bob, can you ask Pierre, you referenced Hyman injury. Okay, fine. You say it's not a excuse, it's a factor. Nugent Hopkins not at 100%. The Oilers signed 2 guys to play on Leon Draisaitl's wing on July 1st. And that was Jeff Skinner and Victor Arvidsson. Victor Arvidsson was in the press box last night. I thought Jeff Skinner was okay, but he played basically in the bottom 6 the entire second half of the year. Those players, it didn't work out for those guys in the roles. And it's funny, Pierre, I'm not sure Stan Bowman would have done that because they were 2 smaller wingers, right? He might have signed one of them, but I think he would have looked at it and said, we need more size in the other wing position. And that's a valid point by Epstein's mother.
It's absolutely valid. Victor Arvidsson really was a failure of a signing, and he's just a declining asset at this point. Jeff Skinner, I actually thought was one of the better players last night, by the way.
Me too.
I think the issue there, and this is just my opinion, I'm not basing this on something that someone's told me, but I just don't think the coaching staff ever trusted him this year, and especially not in big moments when it matters. So when you don't trust a player, it's hard to play him a lot. But I actually thought he showed well last night. So, that's the Oilers got back to what has been basically Leon's reality. Who's playing with Leon? I mean, he saw a lot of different wingers in these playoffs, and you could say on the one hand, when the Oilers are winning and winning easily, as they did in the second and third round, you can say, well, isn't it great that they have depth and they can plug in different guys like captain and whoever else? Yes, but when you're getting beat up in the Cup final, then it becomes back to the original question. We need to find guys to play with Leon. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Well, and it's on a different level, but I think back to Rob Daum's dominant teams at the University of Alberta or Ian Herber's. So I'm going to go back to a team that Chris Knobloch played with, 98-99, but he was on the 99-2000 team. And then Ian and the 14 and 15 championship teams, they both said the same thing. All 4 of our lines are playing the same way. We're not making any lineup changes. Blank and stop us. That's how we're playing. And you know what? The Oilers sat there and moved players in and out of the lineup. Florida stayed healthy. Part of the reason I think they stay healthy is because they're big, okay? They play hard, firm, and direct. Every line plays the same. They don't cheat for offense. And the Oilers were mixing and matching because they couldn't get any consistency, and their depth got exposed because they had players that couldn't sustain what they had carried through in the 2 previous rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, no, bang on. And, think about the consistency of Florida's lineup. I mean, other than during the playoffs, there's the odd time that Paul Maurice would switch Brady and Rodriguez, but that's very minor. And switch within a prominent role either way, wherever they are on those lines. But that's about it. I mean, everything else stayed the same throughout the playoffs for Florida, and including trusted assignments for their 4th line. Paul Maurice loves that line and played them often and in overtime and was comfortable. So they going 4 lines deep allowed them, I think, to have more stamina as the Cup final went on as well. They're not relying on Barkov as much as they used to because they trust Lundell just as much. And, of course, Sam Bennett has the playoffs of his life. I mean, it's just – I think we're going to look back, and I wrote about this last night, about whether this is beginning to be a dynasty or at least in a salary cap context where it's harder to win multiple times. But the scary thing is, well, we'll see what happens with Bennett because there's no sure thing they can retain him. But I think they can live with the Ekblad loss. I think they thought all along Marchand was probably a rental, although we'll see. But Bennett would be a huge loss because he's really part of that fabric of the nasty boys there for that team. And but if they can keep him, you look at the Atlantic Division, which is very talented, yes, but the Leafs are losing Marner. Let's see how they react. Ottawa's coming on, but are they ready to win yet? Montreal's coming on. I don't think they're ready to win yet. Boston's retooling. Tampa, I think they're going to try and hang in. Of course, they got a great core, but they haven't got out of the first round now for 3 years. So all signs point to Florida still being the best team in the Atlantic. Yeah. But obviously the Bennett question is a big one.
So what I heard this through the grapevine, the St. Louis would be swinging hard with a big number if Florida can't close the deal on Bennett.
That would be up Doug Armstrong's alley.
Well, he's in on everything. We know that. Player. By the way,
go ahead.
I was going to say, Judd Moldaver was with Oilers people last night. He represents Connor McDavid. He also has Dylan Holloway now. And Holloway's next contract, based on a 27-goal, 63-point, plus 21 season, it's going to be, it might get into the 8s in his next deal. So he's going to get paid, too. That's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Well, I think just for people listening to your show, this is just a blanket statement, but I think it's a timely one given the next 2 weeks that are coming here, or the next 2, 3, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
People are going to have to get used to the numbers that we're about to see throughout the league. The market's jumping. And so what you used to think, whatever, third line, second line, everything's about to move very aggressively north in a hurry after about 5 years of a flat cap.
Yep.
And at first, I think some teams are going to be criticized for what are you doing, but the reality is this is all jumping at the same time across the league here. So just be ready to be kind of jarred a bit by some numbers that you see because the cap going up aggressively over the next 3 years has had a real profound effect on conversations already happening to the agents and teams.
Well, now, have you tweeted anything yet on Trent Frederick? Because I know that Elliot
I haven't. I saw, Frank Cervelli had something, and then Strickland. There's no question the Oilers are knee-deep in that conversation. I don't think they're ready to announce anytime soon, but I think a lot of the parameters have been discussed where they'll get him done.
So Frank has an 8-year deal at $3.5 to $4 million, and I don't think it's going to get to $4 million. But what I would say is that $4 million 8 years from now is the equivalent of 2.7 today. This is a guy that scored.
What I'm saying.
Yeah. This guy scored 17 and 18 goals and had 10 to 12 fights a year and was playing, I don't know, 80%, 85%, clearly was hobbled with the high ankle sprain and was not as effective as he's been in his career. And the Oilers, frankly, they need a guy like that. They need some size up front that can play in their middle six forwards and contribute. And a lot of fans, because what happens is recency bias with the fans. You know that, right, Pierre? So
Yeah, and whenever I talked to him throughout the final, and he was careful in what he said, but he's a really nice fellow to talk to, and he said he really thanked the trainers for allowing him to play every night. So you could kind of read between the lines what he was going through just to get in the lineup.
Are there going to be offer sheets?
I know everyone keeps asking, and I'm in the minority. Most people believe there will be, that Doug Armstrong has now opened the door, that it was a very collegial affair, and him and Sam Ullman are not at war, and that's the way it should be. It's in the CBA. I understand all that. I agree with that part. But I just said it. The cap's going up. I think that Doug Armstrong hit a perfect storm with the last offseason of the flat cap last summer and the Oilers having no room. So the criteria is very specific. You need a team with no cap room. You also need a player being complicit in the transaction. A lot of players are uncomfortable with the offer sheet idea if they're trying to stay where they actually play. So I'm not convinced, honestly. I think that, you have to make sure it's a team with zero option that you're going after, and the player has to want to do it. So those are two big ifs, and I'm not convinced those are there, but I'm happy to be wrong because they're fun to talk about.
All right, Pierre, love having you on the show. We're hoping we can keep you for a couple more weeks. We got, what day is free agency? It's July 1st. Is that a Tuesday or a Wednesday? I'm just trying to think here.
I think it's a Tuesday.
Tuesday. Are you leaving for the lake on Wednesday? Is that it? You're gone?
I sure am.
Well, maybe we could.
If you ask me politely, maybe I'll come on that day for my last appearance.
Well, you know how many drinks I bought you during the course of the season? None. But thanks a lot for your time, Pierre. Thanks for fitting us in today on the travel day. Okay?
Yeah, I love being on your show, bud. We'll talk next week. All right.
You bet. That is Pierre LeBrun.